Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, what would happen if your mobile phone killed you?
We are tonight's entertainment.
I would rather watch Beautician and the Beast.
People don't forget.
And here we go.
Made for movies.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Made for Movies podcast. I am your host, Aaron Wolf. With me, as always, Mr. Eric Russo. What's going on, my friend?
Not a lot. Well, we do have a lot planned for you guys. We have 3 episodes this week. First being our review today of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Tomorrow will be our usual top 5 news stories plus your comments from our Leonardo DiCaprio episode. And then this Thursday, we will have our Mortal Kombat review as well as Oscars. So action-packed week. Should we just jump into it?
Absolutely. Let's get into our official Made for Movies review of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Really looking forward to this. Wolf, I ask you first, what were your expectations going into this show based off not only having seen WandaVision, but also the previous Captain America movies?
That's a good question. I will start with the first. Basically, I didn't have too many expectations because even with WandaVision, these series seem to be independent of each other enough that you know it's probably not going to be the same thing week to week or show to show. So I was excited to see kind of where the story has gone from Endgame mostly, because obviously there was 50% of all life literally murdered overnight, and then they all got plopped back. So just like seeing Spider-Man Far From Home and seeing like some of the results of the blip kind of flipping back, I'm curious again to see how the world is dealing with that. So on that aspect, I was excited just to kind of continue that story. Yeah. And I love the Winter Soldier. I don't particularly like the Captain America movie about it specifically because, number one, he's not in it enough to call it the Winter Soldier. It should have been called Hydra, but that's a whole nother argument. But yeah, I'm excited to see basically anything continue in the Marvel Universe based on the success of the previous movies and the storylines. So
fair enough.
Unless it's Black Widow, because again, like we talked about, she's already gone. So doesn't really matter.
Nobody's ever really gone, don't they? That's what Luke Skywalker says in the Star Wars Episode 9 trailer.
Yeah, that's right.
But moving on to this, I was more excited for this than WandaVision just because I do love the Winter Soldier, the movie and the character. I think Captain America the Winter Soldier is the best MCU movie. Difference of opinion on that one, but I also love Civil War. So I love the story that they've been telling with these, and my hope going in was that it would very much be a direct sequel to those 2 movies. More so with WandaVision, I wasn't that interested in the characters, but still a good show overall. But my fear going in was that it would just be an inconsequential show, meaning, your average member of the audience that skips it could just continue to watch, let's say, Captain America 4 and have missed nothing from Endgame to Captain America 4. So I never want to have my time wasted. But that's kind of how I felt going in. But Wolf, what are your general thoughts on The Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
General thoughts. Number 1, great action. It's definitely exciting, and I would say well directed as well. And like I said earlier, the nice thing about this is that it's very rare when a show, even if it's a miniseries, has the same director for every episode. Because even like Game of Thrones is famous for having like their episodes with certain directors are going to be the good action ones, and the other ones are more dialogue, and those guys are better at that. So with this, they kept it the same. So I thought that was good. It was consistent in that respect. I love the interaction with the Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes, with anyone in the show because he's kind of awkward. He's obviously over 100 years old at this point, I believe, because it's the year 2025 or something like that. So he's been around for quite a while and seen some stuff, obviously. I kind of like the story of how like the Earth is in a little bit of shambles at this point because of the blip and all that stuff, just trying to figure that out. So overall, I thought it was a good show. I almost thought it was just like I said, a longer like Captain America movie that they just broke up for us. So I haven't disliked any of those movies at all. So overall, very good show.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm with you. I would call it a very good to great show overall. Tells a really good story. It sets up a lot of things moving forward. My favorite part of the show by far is that it is a direct sequel to the Winter Soldier movie and Civil War. It touches on a lot of things that were in those shows, which will, once we do our deep dive into these episodes, we'll jump into a little more specifics. But just from a perspective, I think it's very well directed. There's not much of a fall off going from the Russo brothers to this new director, which is going to be Kerry Skoglund. Yeah, Kerry Skoglund. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. So, yeah, really excited to see, him jump into film. I think that he's definitely got a really good eye. It's shot very similar to those movies. Not quite on the level of, Winter Soldier and Civil War, but almost unnoticeable. If you told me the Russo brothers directed this, I'd say it was the best thing they directed since Endgame. So, yeah. But, yeah, really happy with the show overall. The highlights for me, for sure, are going to be Zemo in the show, as well as Wyatt Russell, the son of Kurt Russell, playing, what is his name? The new Captain America.
Walker.
John Walker. Thank you very much.
Yep.
And, yeah, I really enjoyed Bucky as the Winter Soldier and Sam, to some extent, as Falcon. A couple minor issues we'll get into. Not really the actor's fault. Some of the dialogue, a little cringeworthy, but it's a Marvel show at the end of the day. It's a comic book show. So, of course, Marvel has always had that Joss Whedon sort of one-liner, quippy laugh dialogue that, you kind of have to be on board with. It's part of what makes these movies appealing to all generations, so I totally understand. But, yeah, really no complaints overall. But should we score this thing before we jump into our deep dive? For those of you who have not seen it, we don't want to spoil anything, so we'll give you our official review. Wolf, what are you going to score this?
I am going to go with a 7.5 out of 10, and that's for all 6 episodes, kind of as a concise story throughout, as all of the different kind of characters get developed and you start to learn a little bit more about some stuff. It drops it down from a full 8 to me, for a pretty specific reason, which we'll talk about when we talk about the finale. But overall, again, it's extremely good action, and you kind of it's almost like a Godzilla versus Kong. You kind of know what you're getting into if it did continue those stories of Civil War and Winter Soldier movies, and it did. So overall, again, great. Definitely check it out. I would recommend it. And it's nice that it's able to be broken down into a few different sittings as opposed to a full movie that's 4 hours long. So, liked it a lot.
Great. I will be giving it a little bit of a higher score than you. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I think it's a great show. I think for anyone who is a fan of Marvel as a whole, if you're a fan of all the movies, you're going to love it. If you're more of a casual viewer who catches some of the Avenger movies, it's going to be a little boring, I think, starting out. The first couple episodes are not that entertaining compared to the second half of the show. But if you can stick through it, it gets really good. Around episode 3, it really picks up. I know a few people I've spoke to really struggle with those first couple episodes. But overall, highly recommend anyone who's a Marvel fan to watch it. I prefer it over WandaVision. I think it's a slight improvement over that show, which also was a good show. But let's jump in. If you have not seen any of these episodes and you don't want them spoiled, me and Wolf are going to do a deep dive. We're going to hit on every episode, every plot point, where this could go, spoilers, all the good stuff. So we'll give you a couple seconds to get the F out of here. But Wolf, are you ready?
Let's jump right in.
Episode 1, New World Order. So this episode really starts off with a bang, I would say. It has a really awesome action sequence. Wolf, what did you think about not only this helicopter scene, but also bringing back what's his name, Batroc?
Yep, I think it's Batroc.
Batroc, yeah.
George St. Pierre.
Yeah, from Winter Soldier.
UFC. Yep, he was in Winter Soldier. I think he was a good villain. He was very short in that movie because he gets caught pretty quickly, but you wonder what happened to him and if he came back. But definitely an excellent action scene. We obviously see Falcon flying around doing his thing, and it almost reminded me a little bit of the movie Independence Day for whatever that's worth, when they are literally flying through a valley and through a bunch of mountains and stuff. That it's kind of similar to Will Smith piloting away from some aliens, but overall pretty cool opening.
Yeah, he was just straight up murdering people in this opening too. Yes. I thought Zack Snyder was directing it, but no, it's a good opening. Highlights how much Sam has grown as a fighter. Again, he's not a super soldier, so he doesn't have those advantages. But really cool opening. I really like that they brought back Batroc from Winter Soldier. I thought that was a really cool connective tissue. Very subtle too. The show either knows you're on board or you're not. I'm sure a lot of people missed that was the same person because they don't really draw too much attention to it. Right. One thing I really liked about it, if you're a fan of the comics, the movies have struggled to find B-level villains in the movies consistently. Like, we've had him, obviously, and who is the guy Frank Grillo plays in Winter Soldier as well? Crossbones. Yeah, so they haven't had too many of these almost like villain of the weeks to have pop in here, and there's so many in the comic books, so it would be cool to see them start to really go into that second and third layer of their roster to get more villains that people know that are never going to be like the star villain of a movie. So I thought that was really cool that they brought him back, and I was hopeful to see him return later in the show, which he does. But yeah, yep. Really cool opening. I had some issues with the first episode's pacing. I really love the Winter Soldier flashback scene. That was really cool. See, I like him with the long hair. I think he looks a lot more badass. But, Wolf, what did you think about Sam not being able to get approved for a loan at the bank because we find out that the Avengers are not only not paid by the government, but, they're working for free and always have been.
It surprised me, to say the least, and it did affect the overall score of the show because I thought it was funded by Tony Stark. Obviously, Tony Stark, I'm spoiling the end of Endgame, but if you haven't seen that,
we're in the spoilers, so it's good.
He is dead, so I don't know if he is able to. I thought it the whole time he was funding it anyway, so it was surprising. It was like I didn't think that needed to be part of the story because it just made you kind of feel like bad for him. Like, This is kind of weird. That was my overall thought.
Yeah, I did not like that decision at all. It seemed like a really cheap storytelling device, and it also frames Tony Stark and some of the other Avengers who do have money, to me, as not being great people. Tony Stark was around for the 5 years where everyone was missing. You would think that he would have set up, based off the character, like, they don't need to say that he probably would take care of all the families that were involved with the Avengers that went missing, and died. That he would set up funds and take care of people, and that's not what happened, apparently. No one gets paid. It's just ridiculous. I mean, even if you're a government employee, you have a government salary. So it was a stupid thing that they added in. But we do get at the end of the first episode the introduction to Wyatt Russell as John Walker, the new Captain America. How did you feel about his introduction?
I laughed audibly at his face through the mask. I was like, it looked like that guy. I didn't quite know it was him until I looked it up afterward, but I was like, he looks kind of weird. His face looks kind of weird in that mask. Are they sure that's the guy they want as Captain America? Like, he's not very good looking. So
he literally looks like the character, the old man from Up. He's got a weird head shape. I did not know that it was the same character. One, I did not know that this was Kurt Russell's son, which would have been cool to know going in. I didn't know it was the same guy I knew from 22 Jump Street. He's in a couple other movies as well. But yeah, he does not fit that helmet right. I don't know if they intentionally did it, but it's a good end to the episode. I guess we should talk about how at the end of Endgame, Steve Rogers gives Sam the shield. So we all assume that he will be Captain America in the movies, but the show takes a step back. Sam does not want to keep the shield. He relinquishes it, turns it in to the government, and then within a couple days, they have already handpicked a new Captain America, who was John Walker, and that's how the episode ends.
Yeah, it was a little bit surprising. They were kind of hinting at the fact that he didn't take the Captain America job throughout the episode. And it's kind of like, well, where's the shield? Why is he still flying around as Falcon? So it was interesting that they at least dropped that on you in the first episode. Like, yeah, Captain America's still here, but we're just going to give it to this guy now.
And then the last thing to talk about, they introduced the group, the Flag Smashers, who we don't really find too much about in episode 1, but we get the feeling that these people are going to be the big villainous group of the series. But Wolf, overall, I give episode 1 probably like a 6 out of 10. You know, it held my interest, but overall, not too much happening here.
Yeah, it's a setup episode to get into like the real meat and potatoes. So it is for what it's worth. It's a good season opener, though.
Yeah. So we move into episode 2, The Star Spangled Man, excuse me. Once again, directed by our boy, Kerry Skoglund. Mr. Skoglund. But yeah, so it starts with a really cool scene where Walker's at his old high school. I really enjoyed this. He's getting interviewed as becoming, the new Captain America. Instantly likable character here. How did you feel about Mr. Walker's interpretation of the character?
Yeah, I like the title of this episode because it goes back to the first Avenger Captain America movie.
Yeah,
and he's called the Star Spangled Man with a Plan, and they're kind of bringing that back. So I thought that was kind of funny. And then it's Good Morning America, and he's Captain America. They even hinted that during the thing. Pretty funny. It was a cool scene. I thought it was very humorous, and they're asking him like questions like, if Captain America was a mainstream guy and like that, like the idea of the Avengers, I don't know how many Steve Rogers interviews he gave. Like now you can see like the government's really involved. Like he's an actual captain in the army. He's known for being a pretty good soldier, and just learning that about him was fascinating. And it's a great opening to that episode, I think.
One last thing, great points. I completely agree. I forgot to touch on episode 1, Bucky and his notebook. Bucky has the notebook to make amends with everyone he's ever killed or hurt, any of their family members. I really did enjoy his interactions with the old man in episode 1. And probably my favorite part, we find out that the old man that, it seemed like maybe they were like World War II buddies because the guy's so old, which would have been cool. We actually find out that it's actually the father of someone Bucky has killed, and he's not quite getting up the courage to tell him, which I could already feel my lip quivering here. I was like, oh no, this is going to be a rough one to watch. But
yeah, if we lose this old man, I'm going to cry. I thought that was going to happen.
Yeah. So we will see that resolved a little bit later. But back to episode 2, we're introduced to Lamar Hoskins, who is kind of like John Walker's Falcon. It's like his right-hand man, goes by the name of Battlestar from the comic books. It's such a good name.
It is a great name. I instantly thought of Dwight from The Office, Battlestar Galactica, Bears, and Beats.
There you go. Perfect. And when he tells it to Winter Soldier and Falcon, the look on their face says it all. They're like, come on, man. But we get a really cool action scene here with Bucky and Falcon tracking down the Flag Smashers on top of a truck. They are trying to fight them, and that's when Walker and Lamar show up to show up to save them. What did you think of this action scene? I thought this one was pretty good.
Yeah, I thought it was great. Kind of set up a lot more of the action to come, and really introduces us to the idea that there's a lot more super soldiers out there than we thought, and it becomes a humongous plot point moving forward for the show. And it really is crazy to see even someone like Bucky get kind of tossed around, because we haven't seen that too much of him. Like when he fights Iron Man, like obviously it's a ridiculous $1 billion suit that's meant to enhance everything. So that was the last fight besides like obviously Endgame, where he's a shoot 'em up kind of guy. But yeah, he gets kind of beat up, and they see that they're really outmatched at this point, even with all 4 of them going hard on it. So I thought it was very interesting, and it caught my interest way more than episode 1 to kind of keep going. So
yeah, it was a great action scene. I did like how it really drives home the fact that they're not really working together, and because of that, they're getting their asses kicked by these younger kids too. I was thrown off. I actually thought, just based off when they showed John Walker on Good Morning America training with the Shield, the way he was training with the Shield, he certainly looked very similar to Steve Rogers, and I assumed he was the super soldier with how he was handling it. He seemed like he was, but then he just gets his ass kicked here to the point where he can't even physically climb up onto the truck at one point. He's like hanging on the side, and it takes him like 5 minutes to pull himself up. I was like, all right, so he's not a super soldier. Very interesting that will come up later as well, but I thought that was funny. My favorite part of this episode was when we're introduced to Isaiah Bradley, who was a secret Captain America that actually fought the Winter Soldier in the Korean War. Pretty cool idea that there was this black Captain America out there that was kind of shunned by our government and tortured by Hydra and the government for 30 years. Pretty terrible, but I really like this portrayal that this actor brings to this character. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it sets up another part towards the end, but definitely really crazy and sad to think that this would happen. Because of race and everything's pretty racially charged in the series. It just uncovers more of the layers we don't know, especially about Bucky's past, because he's been operating throughout the entire Cold War, 90s to early 2000s, like basically until he's introduced, he's out there operating, and that it really makes you think about like what else don't we know about the last 100 years, basically, of all this going on. So I thought this was my favorite part of the episode as well. Yeah,
it was great. I wouldn't mind seeing a flashback. I guess we're probably not going to get the flashback to it, but when they hinted at this awesome battle, I thought it would have been cool to maybe open up the next episode with a flashback to the battle between Bucky and Isaiah Bradley. Because it sounds like they went at it for quite some time, and Bucky lost his arm, or almost lost his arm, during that battle. But the episode ends with an amazing cliffhanger to me, which got me, for the first time, very excited about the show. Zemo. So at the end, we find out that in order to figure out who the Flag Smashers are, they have gone to none other than Zemo, who was the villain in Captain America Civil War. Wolf, what did you think about this little tease at the end of the episode?
Definitely was hoping throughout the story that they were somehow going to bring him back, because he's famously not killed at the end of Captain America Civil War by Black Panther, who everyone thought would kill him. But he has been imprisoned, so he goes to see him, and it made me really excited for episode 3. And episode 3 does not disappoint, let me tell you.
Yeah, so let's move on. I would give episode 2 like a 7 out of 10. It's a slight improvement from the first episode. Mostly based off that great action scene and that great tease at the end. But let's jump into the Power Broker, episode 3, the introduction to Zemo. I have to say that this went a lot different. When I heard that Zemo was cast, I just naturally assumed that he was going to be the big bad villain of the show. Like, how could he not be? So, playing with our expectations, I was really happy to see him working with the good guys this time. But how did you feel about not only his introductory scene with them, but also the prison break?
It was amazing. Like he's one of the best parts, if not the best part of the previous movie. And the dialogue that he brings to the table is top notch. Just from the very get go, when he sees Bucky, he already knows why he's there. He's literally already on top of it. It's incredible to me that he's that smart and that cool. And the prison escape, just like how casual it kind of is, and how almost easy it is for him. Somebody like that, as long as he has the way out of the cell, pretty much it's game over, and he's going to make it. So extremely cool. And again, I was just super pumped to see him back, because that actor is also fantastic in basically anything, and including like Inglourious Bastards, where he plays Private Sola. And it's fantastic. I loved it.
Yeah, I really liked his introduction. I was instantly hooked to the show once Zemo comes in. He has a weight and gravity to his role that you're just super interested in this very damaged character who was already sympathetic in Civil War, but they really dig deep into that. I love that the first words we hear him say are longing, rusted, 17, daybreak. He's doing the trying to activate the Winter Soldier from the previous movie. I thought that was perfectly executed. But we find out that super serum has been made, and there's 20 vials out there that they have to track down. All of the members of the Flag Smashers are super soldiers as well. So this really sets the stakes for the rest of the show. It's starting to feel like a pretty big deal. We've also never really seen any other super soldiers other than Captain America, as well as, I forget his name. Tim Roth plays him in the Incredible Hulk movie as the Abomination. He's also got the super serum as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it really sets the stage for the rest of the show. I love the interaction between Zemo, Falcon, and the Winter Soldier during this episode. I love the banter, much better than the previous kind of buddy cop thing they were going for between the two of them. But it also introduces Sharon Carter, who was in the previous movie. How do you feel about her introduction to the show? Kind of comes out of nowhere. She's just like randomly there and knows that they're there in the city of Lithuania. But what did you think about this?
Yeah, so this is where we're introduced to the land of Madripoor, which is apparently a very criminal, corrupt type of city somewhere in the world. And these types of places always fascinate me because we're introduced to some of them in, Black Panther and some of those types of places where it's just kind of you're good if you're a criminal, basically. Sharon Carter, unfortunately, like where she ends up at the end of Civil War, it's not something I necessarily remembered because I know she helps them, but I don't know if she got in trouble for helping them. So to find out that she has been kind of like banished out of the United States or like is wanted by the United States was a little surprising, but it sounds like she's got her stuff together and used her training from the CIA and from Hydra, or I guess it would be SHIELD that she thought it was, to be a pretty good criminal. So she's kind of linked in with all these kind of horrible people overall.
Yeah. Interesting enough, is she supposed to be Steve Rogers' daughter now?
I certainly hope not, because in Civil War they actually make out a little bit. Yeah, that would be a little Game of Thronesy. So
you like Star Wars, so I mean, you can't knock this and then not knock Star Wars. But yeah, it was interesting. I feel like that's been implied by the previous movies. When Steve goes back in time, we get a little bit of impregnation, and his daughter is born.
I think that she was far enough away from Maggie Carter in the family genome to like she was like an Aunt Judy or Aunt Peggy or something like that. I could be remembering the movie wrong. I
think it's her grandmother.
Maybe that's it.
It's still weird to make out with your granddaughter, nonetheless.
100%.
Don't try this at home, ladies and gentlemen. But the episode ends with another big cliffhanger. Ao from Wakanda shows up to confront Bucky because she is there basically for Zemo's head. For those of you who do not remember, Zemo was responsible for the death of T'Chaka, who is the father. King T'Chaka, who is the father of Black Panther.
Yes.
So we move into, and again, episode 3, fantastic. I give it a 9 out of 10.
I almost give it a 10 out of 10 because it also kind of unveils more about Zemo.
The dance
the
scene.
Fact that he's rich is hilarious to me. Got millions of dollars and a very funny butler.
Yeah.
Who's way better than Harry Osborn's butler in the Spider-Man movies, but very similar looking. Like just old men, but private plane, all that stuff. It's a perfect episode in my opinion.
Yeah, him dancing in the club is amazing.
So good.
The meme of 2021. It was funny though. You're right. On the jet scene, it reminded me of Batman Begins with Michael Caine and Christian Bale. So pretty funny. I thought that was a really cool callback. I would love to see him as Christian Bale. As Bruce Wayne in a Batman movie. But let's move into, to me, the best episode of the series. Episode 4, The Whole World Is Watching You. More or less, Ao gives Barnes 8 hours to use Zemo before they're going to take him away for the death of T'Chaka. And from here, we're in a cat and mouse game of them trying to get the serums back, find out where the serums are, and John Walker shows up to try to help them, but also ends up making the situation much worse. But Wolf, what are your overall thoughts on this episode and its kind of race against time?
Yeah, another incredible episode with basically the three of them being Zemo, Sam Wilson, Falcon, and Winter Soldier Bucky, having tons of banter, having tons of action. They're getting more and more into following the clues that they've gotten as to where the serum might be coming from. They find the doctor, and just a crazy amount of stuff happens, and it goes back and forth like it's nuts. And overall, again, just really, really good. And I wish we got more Zemo. Obviously, this is kind of his last part, and that does stink. But overall, I can't fight it. And of course, the new Captain America is just kind of a very interesting cat, and obviously a lot of rage going on inside him. Ends up killing one of the Flag Smashers with the Captain America shield, which to me, just watching him hold the shield after he did it as the episode ends, is like, holy crap, this is kind of cool. And like, you never really see that shield bloodied.
Yeah.
Like, it's always hitting people in the face.
Very
for sure,
symbolic,
but
for sure.
Very symbolic that Captain America isn't that type of guy who just murders someone. He would rather, take him into custody. So tons of layers to this episode, but overall it's awesome.
Yeah, great episode. So Walker does get the serum at some point. Basically, 19 of the 20 serums do get destroyed during a battle. Walker takes it. He decides to take the serum. I really enjoyed the scenes with him and what's his name, Battlestar, where they're just talking about, hey, if you had a serum, Walker asked Battlestar, if you had a serum, would you take it? He's like, of course. And I just thought those scenes really, you could start to see that this guy's like not a bad guy, but he's probably seen a lot of shit in the war, and he's basically been used as a weapon by the government. Mm-hmm. So he's got PTSD, he's got all sorts of issues, and not everyone can be Captain America. Just because you're a good war hero and you've killed a lot of people and saved a lot of people, like it takes a different level of person to represent that shield, and I think they really drive that home, that he is a worthy fighter and maybe potentially a worthy someone that could help the Avengers at some point, but he is not Captain America, which is really driven home by letting the anger get the best of him, which we've also seen with Iron Man. Iron Man lost his shit at the end of Civil War and literally tried to kill Bucky. So, and again, he couldn't be Captain America either. So I don't think he's a villain per se, but he's flawed. I think that's safe to say. Yeah,
very flawed character, and it really shows through in the episode following this one too.
Yeah, so this was a 10 out of 10 episode for me. Definitely, it seems like these Marvel shows peak right in the middle. It's like they start low, hit the peak, and then they start to fall off. So let's move into episode 5, Truth. Another fantastic episode, I thought, that starts with Falcon and the Winter Soldier fighting Walker to get the shield back. What did you think of this episode?
They kind of lost me towards the end, but the beginning, I don't think there's ever, and this is even before they show the name, like the whole fight scene is like 10 to 12 minutes long. So the three of them fighting, it's awesome. In the end, of course, Wilson and Barnes take back the shield, break Walker's arm, but Walker's a super soldier, so he heals pretty quickly, we find out. But overall, this episode has some more complexity still, and then we get into kind of like a little bit of a break. It seems like they're kind of off doing personal things, which is kind of where, like, did they forget that there's a group called the Flag Smashers that are murdering people? Like, I don't quite understand that part. I guess they had stuff to take care of and kind of figure out. I do like any kind of training montage, so the Wilson montage, but it goes back to, he's not a super soldier, but he's throwing the Captain America shield extremely easy. Like, how? Is it that light?
It's never been explained to us, but yeah, I'm with you for sure. I actually like the training montage because at least he wasn't catching the shield at first, and I just thought it showed his training and it earned what comes after it. I did really feel like if they did not have that, and then he just came out of nowhere and he's throwing the shield around. I don't know. It just shows his growth into not only physically becoming Captain America, but finally being able to accept the fact that he does deserve to be Captain America. Again, the show has a really good message. I think it's really relevant to a lot of things that are happening right now. So definitely enjoyed this episode. It's a little bit slower after that opening, but I mean, we really didn't get too much character growth. Again, I really didn't enjoy Sam's character that much in this show, mostly because of the dialogue, and he didn't really get scenes like this until the very end, which is a little frustrating, but at least they came before the end of the show and didn't just not happen at all. So it's probably, the training sequences are probably my favorite part featuring Sam, I would say. But it does end with another kind of mid-credit scene where we see Walker, which I thought was really cool, building a new Captain America shield out of like scrap metal and his was it his war medals too?
Right.
Yeah, pretty cool.
It was interesting. Yeah, they didn't do post-credit scenes on every episode, which I thought was a little interesting.
Yeah. I hated not seeing them when I would like wait for it. But last thing on episode 5, it does introduce us to someone I made a joke about a couple weeks ago. Julia Louis-Dreyfus from Seinfeld pops up here out of nowhere in a very interesting role and has a connection to Walker now. What did you think about her introduction?
Yeah, I love her, and she's hilarious. Like Veep, Seinfeld, obviously are both hilarious shows, and she's great in them. Don't know too much about her backstory, and I think they left a lot of that still to a mystery, which is good. Even
I don't
by
think
the end
they
of the
know.
show. Yeah, they may not even know, but she's playing basically herself, which is just like a funny, like very stark, direct type of person, and her language is always funny, and she always says stuff with a smile, even though it's not necessarily funny. So I like her character. Very interested to see where it goes with his character as well, especially by the end of the finale. But
For sure.
We'll get into that one right now.
Absolutely. So we get into the finale. At this point, I'm wondering, how are they going to wrap all this stuff up in an hour? It almost seems impossible. They have the Flag Smashers, the Power Broker. All these different storylines must come to an end. And what we get is a fantastic opening 30 minutes to this episode, which is just pure action. We get the new Captain America suit. So I'll ask you, what do you think of the new suit that Sam's wearing? And what do you think of this opening action scene?
Yeah, there's not much you can say about the action. It's been consistent and really entertaining throughout the entire series, so that maintains a top mark. His suit is possibly one of the ugliest superhero uniforms in history, and it's pantomime to Batman at the end of Justice League, Ben Affleck's Batman suit that just makes him look like that there's 3 inches of foam layering that make his muscles in that suit. And it's almost kind of like the same thing here. Like the shoulders are too big. It looks baggy in certain areas because he's not, don't get me wrong, Sam Wilson, in very good shape, but he's not like jacked like Captain America jacked. So, or like Thor, who could fill out one of those suits. But I thought like the 30 minutes at the beginning are just like, oh my God, this is very fast paced. If I blink, I'm literally going to miss something. And that may even take a little bit away from it. Because again, they are still trying to bring to resolution about 10 different stories all at once. So it's probably one of my least favorite episodes, unfortunately, even though it is the finale.
Yeah.
Despite all the cool action in it.
Yeah, the action is great. It definitely struggles. I feel like it could have been an extra hour. I mean, we find out that Sharon Carter is the Power Broker, which everyone seems to have known since episode 3 when she was introduced. Batroc
could have
shows,
seen that coming if you were blind.
Yeah.
Really.
Batroc shows back up, and he dies. I think, right?
I think he ends up getting away.
I think she shoots him like in the head. I'm pretty sure. I could.
Oh,
be,
really?
Yeah, he's dead. He's instantly dead. So there goes my idea about him showing up as a B villain. Yeah, he's completely dead. You're dead. You're dead.
And goodbye.
Overall, though, yeah, they really rushed all the plot points. I think the thing that I really enjoyed was Walker to some extent, but my issue with it is it happened so fast. We just saw him making the new shield all menacingly, and now he's like saving people. I do like him in the good guy role. I think he's going to be a useful character moving forward, but again, it just needed a little more time to simmer to really earn him. All of a sudden, they're like all working together, and like he's got funny dialogue. I just thought it was very interesting. And then we get him as the U.S. agent, which is also a really funny reveal, which is basically just black-suited Captain America.
I actually enjoyed this part a lot because it made me look forward to more Julia Louis-Dreyfus as whatever her character is. And then U.S. Agent, famously in the comic books, is kind of like the bad Captain America. He's not quite bad, but he's not quite good at the same time. And that should be interesting. And I agree with what you said, like, he was putting together the shield as if he was going to go mess with like Winter Soldier or something like that, but he ends up being like a good guy. And I just think that that's a consequence of him as Wyatt Russell being like so likable, because he's likable in almost every role, even as like a bad guy in 22 Jump Street. He's still funny and like charming. So I think that kind of they almost couldn't have picked somebody worse to become a bad guy, I guess. But they're keeping him half a bad guy, so it's
I don't
not
understand.
even quite there. Very cool in the end as well of basically the main action, where Zemo is still kind of getting involved in all the mix.
With his butler.
And his hatred of super soldiers really goes haywire when his butler literally detonates a bomb and kills the rest of them, like in a police car. Pretty crazy there. My eyes went like, what? So definitely cool. And in the end, we obviously get the biggest reveal of all, that Sam Wilson will be the new Captain America. And there's all this kind of, racially charged stuff in the show, talking about Isaiah, the character earlier, who was a secret super soldier who fought the Winter Soldier. And in my opinion, it was just kind of the thing that overall, just as like if we're a good group of people as a society, we shouldn't be having episodes where a black Captain America is like the craziest thing in the world. We're going to keep calling him the Black Falcon, or like, what is he?
Yeah.
If there were already more people of color in superhero roles, like, it wouldn't have mattered. And like, kind of on their own, like a Black Panther, like, obviously that's amazing. Like, it's one of the best movies in MCU, but like, this detracted from how good the show could have been. Yeah. Because it shouldn't exist in the first place, I guess is what I'm saying. So I'll leave that there. But overall, we're finding out now, even after the fact, obviously Captain America 4 is a movie that's in production, and we know who it's going to be. So that's at least revealed.
Yeah, my biggest issues when the show was announced, when they announced that it was going to be a TV series, I assumed that the whole show would be around him becoming Captain America. I just, from a studio perspective, now that I'm seeing it and now that they've announced the movie, I don't know if this was always the plan to do the movie after. That's really cool. I just felt that he would have been fine just going into the Captain America 4 movie and just kind of telling the story in movie format. I think he earned the right after starring in 10 movies to get his own movie, so I'm very glad. I think it'll be very successful. I think that it will be one of the better movies that they make. All the Captain America movies have been very good. Yeah. Interesting to see where they go with the story, if it will include Bucky, if it will include U.S. Agent in the movie, or if they will kind of spin off into their own series and they'll give Sam, 100% of the spotlight, which would also be pretty cool. But yeah, overall, really loved the show. Very much had some issues with the finale's pacing and wrapping things up. And, it seems like it's probably going to be a thing with these Marvel shows, is that they're just not as well thought out as the movies. They don't really hold that much value in the overall MCU story, but they're going to fill in the gaps on some characters. And, if you like these characters, then you're really going to enjoy it. And if you don't, you can probably skip the shows and just watch the movies and not miss anything at all. But
yeah, absolutely.
Any last thoughts on it?
No, I definitely would recommend people go see it, and I'm curious to know what our fans think of Falcon and Winter Soldier, so please write us in, guys. This was a good show, so we'd like to hear what your thoughts are.
Yeah, so don't forget, it's Made for Movies Podcast at Gmail, or you can just direct message us at our Instagram, Made for Movies Podcast. Every Monday, we are going to be reading some of the best comments that get set into us.
That we appreciate everybody writing in. Continue to do so, guys. Again, it's Made for Movies Podcast at gmail.com. Our website, madeformovies.com. Of course, check us out on our socials, Made for Movies Podcast on Instagram. And we will see you guys on Thursday with our official Made for Movies review of the latest release of Mortal Kombat. Looking forward to that one. And of course, a quick Oscar recap. Being that the Oscars were yesterday as you're listening to this. So look forward to that, guys, and hope you enjoyed the episode. See ya.
Bye.
Made for Movies.